Hello and Sunny Bonani. Welcome to the resumption of proceedings. Welcome back to Imola. We do apologize for the break in transmission as we were sorting out issues regarding the integrity of the lobby. That has since been addressed. We now have 22 laps in total that we will race around this year's circuit. This race will be restarted. Hopefully, we will have all 10 cars in good nick and intact and in a position to finish this race as best as they possibly can. Here we go with another restart. Mfundo hunting down Kaboza at the start of this race. Marshy is here. Shangu was also here. Shangu has had a terrible start once again, all the way down towards the back. It is also tight in the midfield, and Mfundo going to keep it. Oh no, who's that? Who's gone out? Was it the Prince of South Africa who went crashing out for a huge collision within Quali? Is Tindo involved there? Yes, he is. He's come off one of the worst. He's lost his wing completely, and Level was married there. The Prince of South Africa also involved there in a crash once again. It's a huge incident towards the first corner here in Imola, and it's a safety car to start off the first lap again. Tindo losing 2 places, as did Mshengu, who had a terrible start off the line, and Quali, the biggest mover, gaining 5 places since that start. And as you can see, a lot of the drivers with the red-walled soft tires to begin proceedings here. Is that an indication of the possible rain situation that we may yet see before all is said and done here? Well, Mfundo started on the mediums. And he's lost that P2 position to Marshy, who managed to overtake the McLaren. Man Ray is in that 4th place, and Quali, of course, the biggest mover in 5th. Shangu losing a couple of positions, now down to 6 on those soft tires. Espexa is on the softs as well. So only Mfundo, Tindo, and Level opted to start this race on medium tires. The rest of the pack opted to go aggressive earlier on and start on those softs. Each of the back 3 drivers can be expected to come into the pits after that huge moment of collision. Remember, the Prince of South Africa had a 5-second time penalty for the huge collision that he caused earlier on, or that he was deemed by at least the game to have caused. So he will come into the pits. He's serving that 5-second time penalty now and fitting on a new set of hard tires to go. What about Nebo? It's a double stack, sadly. So that's a lot of lost time, and Nebo will be consigned to the back of this pit as Tindo gets a wing change as well as a set of hard tires throughout that pit stop. So the Prince of South Africa is making their way out the pits, as is Tindo at this particular point. As you can see, they're running in close proximity, and Lebo, sadly, who had to double stack for a wing change and to a switch of hard tires, will now exit the pits to begin the second of a total 22 laps, currently behind the safety car. We can assume that both this lap and the next would be behind the safety car as we wait for the P10 running and Lebo to catch up with the rest of the field. 2 laps gone, Kapoza leads from Marshy and Mfundo. Those are your top 3 behind the safety car. Man Ray is 4th, and Quali, taking advantage of the drama, is 5th. And Shengu is currently 6th from the AlphaTauri of Espexa. And then, of course, we have the rear trio, Prince of South Africa, Tindo, and Nebo. Oh, Marshy cutting it fine, running almost side by side with Kaboza there, at least from the vantage point of that shot that we saw. It is looking all right. Prince of South Africa back in the pits, served, of course, the second of his 5-second time penalties. He opted to do so now under the safety car. Perhaps that's a prudent move. But, of course, that'll just push him all the way to the back of the pack. But being under the safety car, he perhaps thinks it's a move or a risk worth taking. So it's going to be mediums for the Prince of South Africa. Perhaps we'll hope for another safety car as a form of reprieve. Or perhaps at this point, he will then opt to pit when the soft tire stints of the rest of the pack concludes. Well, we'll see how the Prince of South Africa will play it. But got the pace today earlier on before the lobby was compromised. He was looking very quick, but just outbraking himself too much and falling afoul, if you will, just getting himself into trouble with moments of contact with the other competitors. Work to do for the Prince of South Africa as race control gives the word that the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. Kaboza will be the driver leading us on the way. Last time out, Kaboza did his best to catch Mfundo off guard. He sent that car and the penultimate corner. Will he catch Marshy off guard? This is where Kaboza sent it last time. This is where he sends it this time. Marshy, how close can you be this time around? The answer is fairly close indeed. Mfundo would have known what to expect right now. On board we go at that. Oh, Mfundo was falling behind. Those medium tires struggling to keep up. Marshy, meanwhile, is very, very, very close here indeed. As Duke says, Bafana needs us. Duke, of course, is speaking about that dramatic semi-final in the Africa Cup of Nations. The last I checked, the score was level at 1 apiece. Both of those teams, South Africa and Nigeria, having scored penalties. But right now, we're looking to avoid penalties on track with 4 laps of a total 22 gone. It is Kaboza versus Marshy for the lead of this race. Behind them by a factor of almost 2 seconds is Mfundo. Can he catch up? Time will tell. Of course, the longer this first stint goes on, it will be advantage Mfundo on those medium tires, which do have a longer durability, of course, as most of the top 7 are running those soft compound of tires. Marshy looking to apply the pressure on Kaboza. 0.8 of a second separating the top 2 as things currently stand. Kaboza looking fairly comfortable. Marshy at about 79% of battery power remaining, while Kaboza deploys at just over 80% as he tries not to use too much of his battery power. Fastest lap thus far being held by Kaboza, who begins the 5th lap in the lead of this race. Marshy in due course will get the advantage of DRS if he does manage to stay within a second of the leading AlphaTauri driver. Time will tell. Meanwhile, in the midfield, it is Nkwali versus Mshengu versus Eskeksa. And of course, Man Ray is also implicated in this 4-way fight. Here comes the Mercedes of Man Ray, then Mshengu, then Nkwali, and behind them is the AlphaTauri of Eskeksa, of course, who are all looking ostensibly to be fighting for that P4 spot. It is very, very close to this particular point in time. They're running in very, very close proximity, and we'll see whether or not any of these drivers can take advantage. Meanwhile, Nebo versus Tindo is a battle of the former Tier 1 heavyweights here. What can they do now as they look to conclude this middle sector of this circuit here in Imola? The Prince of South Africa is well within touching distance, but will just look to play his cards fairly close to his chest and go for it in as aggressive a fashion as you possibly can, as Nebo is now looking to say something versus Tindo. The Prince of South Africa is very, very comfortable on this portion of the track, as you can see. Oh, and Nebo was looking to go on the outside of the Aston Martin, but did not quite do so. Now they are running oh so close. They can each smell the fumes coming out of the back of the Aston Martin and the other Williams, respectively. On board we go with the Prince of South Africa down the main straight, the end of which represents a major overtaking opportunity. Oh, the straight line speed of the Prince of South Africa is something to marvel at indeed as he now goes up to P9, overtakes his teammate, and will look to attack Tindo. But don't be too eager as you were in the previous stint of this race before the lobby was compromised. We saw how the Prince of South Africa rammed into Tindo and really sent this session down a dramatic path, as we've now had 6 laps of racing. It is going to be the Prince of South Africa on the quicker medium compound of tire versus Tindo, whose 4-lap-old hard tires will be at a relative advantage should these two drivers stay out for a similar length of stint. 6 laps gone. Oh, Prince of South Africa had to make some evasive moves there so as to not hit the back of Tindo and damage his own front wing. Here they come now through this chicane. Prince of South Africa loves this part. He always attacks this chicane so well. And you can see now how much momentum he's managed to maintain versus Tindo. About, 0.6 of a second now through the braking zones. The Prince of South Africa looking very comfortable. Tindo almost getting acquainted with the gravel there, but not quite. Now, the Prince of South Africa will have advantage of DRS as Tindo weaves to the left and to the right, trying to break the slipstream that the Prince of South Africa would get. The Prince attacks on the inside towards the first chicane. Tindo will make contact. Will they? Oh, it is oh so tight, but Tindo maintains that P8 spot by the skin of his teeth. It's all the experience of the Aston Martin driver saying, you shall not pass through that chicane, and Prince has to slam the brakes there through that second chicane, and Tindo showing all his class, all that experience. He was on the margins through that chicane, but Tindo threaded that car through the eye of a needle to maintain the advantage and to hang on to P8. Sensational stuff there from Tindo, who manages to keep the Williams at bay. 7 laps gone over here. The Prince of South Africa is going to have to try something else. He's going to have to be much closer down that main straight as he now comes through the chicane that he loves, carrying a lot more pace compared to Tindo, who went a little bit wide, but the Aston Martin driver manages to find his way back on track without too much of a fuss. The Prince of South Africa is, having quite a ball here, having a good time, and will go on the attack. Mfundo has attacked Marshy a little bit further along, has overtaken Marshy, has Mfundo. Now up to P2, will catch up with them in a second. Prince of South Africa using that battery power. Oh, there's a yellow flag. I do wonder for who and where exactly. Oh, the Prince of South Africa was also close. But not quite able to get that move done. These two, seemingly, you're going to be catching up to Nkwali in due course. If they keep this on along. Yeah, Nkwali is inching closer and closer. He's really losing a lot of momentum. Is the Alfa Romeo driver. There he is, now within Tindo's clutches. So Tindo will just look to overtake the Alfa Romeo. And he's going to say to Nkwali, you know what? The Prince of South Africa is your problem. And Tindo's just going to look to get out of the clutches of the Williams driver, who has been oh so feisty, giving him no breathing room whatsoever. Prince of South Africa versus Tindo versus Nkwali. Look at that. He's been harnessing, storing up all of that electrical energy. That yellow bar, of course, indicating how much electrical power is remaining. Oh, Tindo on the penultimate corner, looking all right, looking decent, looking to attack Nkwali. And the Prince of South Africa would have felt, I would have wanted to be much closer as Tindo finally goes on the attack and goes up to P7. He's ahead of the Alfa Romeo. Will the Prince of South Africa go for it? Oh no, and Nkwali closes the door, says you shall not pass, and the Prince of South Africa will now have to bide his time and wait for another opportunity. And as he does so, Tindo, of course, will gallop on along and look to get out of the clutches of Nkwali's DRS. The Prince of South Africa now has the back of the Alfa Romeo to try and tussle with here with 9 laps gone. Behind him by a factor of a second, of course, is his teammate, and Nebo, who has inched closer and closer as the Prince battles Nkwali, and Nebo gets reeled back in to the reckoning here for a potential 3-way fight with their teammate and the Alfa Romeo. Tindo has done well. He's hovering at almost a second of a gap, so Tindo's on the brink of breaking that DRS. Oh, Prince of South Africa having to slam the brakes there through that chicane that he loves to carry so much speed. And now, Nkwali is just trying to find his bearings now. He was all the way to the extreme right of the track, coming back onto the racing line. The Prince of South Africa will be much closer than he was relative to Tindo. And as he goes on the attack now, even Enlevo is going to have a piece of the action. Rear wing open for the Prince of South Africa, attacking. And Kwali, who is going to defend the inside, but will he have enough coming into that first chicane? Oh, they go side by side, wheel to wheel. They bang wheels. Oh no, and then Kwali gets sent tumbling out. Even the Prince of South Africa had a moment there, and both of these cars lose momentum. The yellow flags are out, and the Prince of South Africa involved in another dramatic moment in the 10th lap, this time, of this 22-lap showcase. And Kwali struggling now with those tires that are screaming, having just spun out. Those 9-lap-old softs, perhaps now due to come back into the pits. Marshy had lost all the momentum, now down to the back of the pack. On a fresh set of medium tires, Kapoza still leads. 9-lap-old soft tires. Is this the lap that Kapoza opts to come in for a pit stop? The answer is yes. And that means a change of the guard. Changing of the guard, a change of the race leader. Mfundo for McLaren is now up to P1, leading this race as Mshengu comes into the pits and earns a 5-second time penalty. Kapoza is into his pit box and fits a brand spanking set of medium compound tires. Mshengu also onto the mediums. The Prince of South Africa is still out on track on those older mediums. So it is Kapoza, Mshengu, Esteta, and Nkwali who come into the pits on at the end of lap number 10, and they will begin lap 11 on fresh tires. It's brand new hards for Nkwali and mediums from the likes of Kapoza and Marshy onwards. How close will Marshy be able to get, having pitted earlier than the likes of Kapoza? Well, the answer is not too close. He's 8.5 seconds behind Kapoza. And Mfundo now leads this race from Man Ray, who has yet to come into the pits. Man Ray stayed out for an extra lap on those soft tires. And Mfundo will know that he will have his work cut out for him by the time he eventually opts to come back into the pits. It's not going to be now. Mfundo leading by a factor of 9.7 seconds. Is this the lap where Man Ray makes the call to finally bring those softs in and to fit a brand spanking set of tires? He is onto the brakes very, very early before the speed limit marker. And he does not fall foul, does Man Ray, of those speed limits in the pit lane. Tindo is now up to second spot as the Prince of South Africa gets a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Another error, unforced error there from the Prince of South Africa, so work to do for them. Tindo now 14 and a half seconds behind the race leader. And Nebo, who is also yet to pit on those aging hard tires, which are currently 10 laps old, running in P3. Kapoza is going to attack the Williams driver. And Marshy is going to look to have something to say versus Kapoza. Prince of South Africa now out the pits. Fresh mediums. And the Prince of South Africa has Nkwali for company. These two made contact with each other earlier on in that dramatic moment. What'll it be now? What will it be now? Oh, Prince of South Africa, not the best of navigations through the initial part of that third sector. Kapoza recently setting the fastest lap, as you saw on your screens just a couple of seconds ago. Here they come now, down the hill, towards the final part of this lap, as we get this beautiful livery of the Alfa Romeo, black and glimmering red. And Kwali looking very, very comfortable. 0.6 of a second to the Prince of South Africa, but has used a significant amount of his electrical power. As you can see, that yellow bar is now down within its final third. Meanwhile, in the lead of the race, Mfundo finally coming into the pits surprisingly for a set of hard tires. Perhaps those mediums were just not playing ball anymore. So Mfundo will now have to fight his way back up to the reckoning, all the way down from P4. Will it be P5? Yes, it will, because he gets overtaken by Marshy. And Mshengu is within touching distance now as the lead changes hands. Kaboza finally overtaking Tindo on those older hard tires. And now Mfundo was under all the pressure from Mshengu. Marshy managed to overtake the McLaren as he was making his way out the pits. And right now on those ice cold hard tires, Mfundo has his work cut out versus Mshengu, who we hop on board now to get the perspective of what it's like on 3-lap old mediums versus those fresh ice cold hard tires that Mfundo is running. It's going to take a little bit of a while, of course, perhaps in the coming lap until Mfundo feels as if those tires have enough temperature within them to be able to feel very, very comfortable, but time will tell. Meanwhile, it is Tindo versus Level. Oh, did they make a little bit of contact there through the penultimate corner? Perhaps they did, because Tindo was well within 0.2 of a second, and that gap is now stretching to almost 0.8 of a second. They might have made the slightest of contact here through the penultimate corner as Tindo was looking to go for it versus Enabo. They're both on 13-lap old hard tires at this particular point. And Kaboza has galloped to about a 4-second lead versus Enebo, who is trying to keep Tindo at bay here. And these two hard tire runners will hope, perhaps in due course, to switch to a set of soft tires and then have their say, number one, towards the fastest lap of this race, and indeed possibly the a decent points haul, because coming into the pits is going to compromise them by a significant margin at this particular point. Tindo and Nebo running P2 and 3 respectively. Tindo has, of course, the disadvantage of a time penalty to contend with, and it's 3 seconds for Tindo, and Mshengu has a 5-second time penalty that he has to be added to his time at the end of this race, unless he comes into the pits, and it's a 5-second time penalty for the Prince of South Africa as well. Work to do for all of these contenders. Let's hop on back with Mfundo, who by now has managed to keep Mshengu at bay. And those tires are well within working condition now. Mfundo goes on the attack versus Marshy on the outside. And does Marshy fight it back hard? No, may not have the pace to do so. Mfundo makes it a clean overtake. And now up to P4. And Mfundo on these brand new hards will be looking ahead to the likes of Tindo, knowing, of course, that that time penalty will cost the Aston Martin driver dear in the stakes for a possible podium finish. Mfundo inching closer and closer to the back of the Aston Martin ahead, and work to do, and perhaps after overtaking Tindo, if he can get it done, of course, then it'll be the prospect of Enlebo and Kaboza who are further ahead. I do wonder if Enlebo, knowing, of course, that those tires might not feel so great towards the end, is going to opt just to stay out here. There's no need for Enlebo to come into the pits. He had to come into the pits, of course, earlier than would have wanted, but these tires that Enlebo is running, they could indeed run all the way towards the end here. They're not going to feel great. He's not going to feel as if he has all the grip in the world, but he's got a golden opportunity here to do something special, and claim what would be among his best results of this BrakeAway Racing League season. and Nebo had no points coming into this race. May yet finish on the podium and send him, of course, all the way up into the top 10 of this Drivers' Championship. So a good day for Nebo. Marshy now fighting with the Mshengu. Work to do for the Haas driver. And Mfundo, meanwhile, has caught up to the Aston Martin. Those hard tires struggling at this particular point in time. And Mfundo, with 17 laps gone, will feel he has a golden opportunity here. It's another 3-second time penalty. Oh no, what was that? And Neville with an unforced error, sending it a little bit into the wall. Those tires are screaming and he loses all of that momentum he was doing so well with the Williams driver. And he found himself going off track. An unforced error by the Williams driver compromises his prospects. Mfundo on the attack versus the Aston Martin takes a wide berth, or gives a wide berth to Tindo as he attacks in towards the first chicane. Tindo will know that he is well and truly beaten for pace, courtesy of the superior grip advantage that Mfundo has. And the McLaren driver is now up to P2. Mfundo on a recovery type of drive at this particular point in time, having gone on an alternate tire strategy relative to some of the drivers in the top half of this field. Now knows what he has to do. He has already broken out of DRS of Tindo. Mfundo is going to try as much as he possibly can to close that gap, but it might yet be too little too late, because Kaposa has all the advantage. Meanwhile, Mshengu is also throwing the kitchen sink at Tindo, almost making contact with the back of the Aston Martin there, did Mshengu. Was within 0.3 of a second, and Tindo struggling for grip there. Also racks up a 3-second time penalty, does Mshengu. But he will know that he does have the advantage because Tindo has 6 seconds worth of a time penalty. Will he go for it on this corner? He does! Mshengu with an audacious move on the penultimate corner. I would have thought he might have waited for the main straight, but Mshengu wasting no time. And as he does that, even Marshy has joined the action. It's a 3-way fight for P3, ostensibly here. Mshengu is flashing that red light, meaning his battery power is down to 10% or less. Mshengu is side by side. Mshengu is ahead of Tindo in this 19th lap of a total 22 here. And it's drama here in Imola as Marshy looks to overtake Tindo as well. Well, Mshengu wasted no time versus Tindo there because he knew Marshy was attacking. Marshy attacks Tindo now in before the left-hander. And does he get it? No, he does not. Tindo plants his car right on the apex, making life difficult for Marshy, who's going to have to go for it at another time, another place, because Tindo said, not now, not on my watch. Tindo putting on a valiant effort, a huge fight here in the 19th lap of a total 22. And as we go on board with Marshy, you will get a sense of just how wide Tindo is trying to make that Aston Martin, really giving Marshy no choice but to take a suboptimal racing line through some of the trickier corners here on this Imola circuit. What a race from Tindo. We've seen how wily he can be, how crafty he has been, especially against the less experienced Prince of South Africa earlier on in today's showcase. But Marshy is, of course, going to give it his all. He's also down to scraps as far as remaining electrical power is concerned. And as these two battle, remember, Mshengu goes galloping off into the sunset. Marshy trying to make sure that he can overtake Tindo, who has a time penalty to contend with, but really is putting on a heck of a show here, and really making sure not to be overtaken easily here on this here circuit. What sensational drama we've seen out here. It seems that behind them and Level has opted to stay out on track on these aging hard tires. That huge mistake costing him what would have been a delightful podium. So we opted to stay out, even though he's definitely struggling here for pace, for grip, for momentum. 5.6 seconds behind Marshy, who is on the attack still versus Tindo, hovering at about half a second behind the Aston Martin driver. we have had 20 laps, soon to be 21, because Kaboza, who has been the class of the field here through qualifying through the race, peerless performance by the AlphaTauri driver has crossed the line for the 21st of a total of 22 laps, leading Mfundo by 11.3 seconds of a lap. Has been in a class of his own today. Went unchallenged. Of course, no Mex here today. I do wonder what sort of battling we might have seen had Mex also been here. We know both Mex and Kaboza, former teammates, of course, in the top tier, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they would have put on a heck of a fight. Meanwhile, down in the midfield, Man Ray has caught up to the back of Inlebo. Man Ray, who at some point earlier on in qualifying was looking like he might have a decent day out here in Imola, has been mired in midfield battles. Oh, look at that, Kaboza. Time penalty. Might be too little too late for Mfundo, who would have clocked that, as we get yellow flags, but I'm not sure what for here. Man Ray. Looks like a slow-moving Williams. Was that the Prince of South Africa? It might be the Prince of South Africa, who brought out a yellow flag on another portion of the track. Meanwhile, Man Ray is trying to pressure the other Williams driver, that being Enebo, into a crucial error here before all is said and done. Well, well, well. What'll it be now for Man Ray? Will he finally go for it now? He's got a little bit of battery power to use, and he does deploy that electrical energy down the main straight. And before the first chicane, it is going to be Man Ray up to P6. Marshy versus Tindo. That battle still raging on. It's going to be another one to watch very, very closely, as of course we are now on the final lap of this race, and considering that, that is 6 seconds worth of time penalties for Kaboza, who is really cutting it fine now towards the end of his lap. And I'll tell you what, if Mfundo was closer, we may yet have had a dramatic race out here, but it is not to be for Mfundo, because Kaboza has been peerless, and he comes across the line to win the race in Imola. Race number 4 goes the way of Kaboza. Sensational performance by the AlphaTauri driver, and Mfundo, who has been inch perfect here as far as keeping it clean on track, comes home for a podium place. It's P2 for the McLaren superstar. M. Shengu will finish this race in P3, having that 5-second time penalty, unserved penalty. No! He gets pipped, does M. Shengu, by Marshy, courtesy of that 5-second time penalty. So Marshy claims the third and final podium spot. M. Shengu 4th, Man Ray 5th, Tindo will come home in P6, and Nubbo 7th, the first points of the season for them. Stexa 8th, the Prince of South Africa 9th, and Nkwali finishes this race in P10. Man, oh man, oh man, what a race that was. Sensational stuff. Tindo being voted by the game as the driver of the day. And Kaboza skips to the top step of the podium. What a race that was. Some really, really entertaining stuff. And we're joined in the commentary box by the person who has looked, very comfortable. Peerless, unchallenged was Kaboza. Congratulations, top step of the podium. How does that feel?
Good evening, Tyson. I just want to tell you a short story. So there was a white man who arrived in a place in Pietermaritzburg. He arrived on a horse, and he was trying to cross a river. So the locals tried to warn him and said, "Aibu, do not try and cross this river because it's too deep and your horse won't be able to make it to the other side." And the white man kept saying, "It's nothing, it's nothing. I'll make it through, it's nothing." So the locals replied, "Ay, it's nothing, sak." There's a place called Snatting. So as the white man said, yeah, it's nothing, it's nothing.
Wow, Kaposa, feeling confident, feeling comfortable. Light work. Look at that. Fastest lap of the race. The driver, who is, of course, the winner out here. Some people were saying in the comment section earlier on that you hardly practice. How much time in preparation did you put in for this track?
It was actually like 30 minutes with my teammates before the race because I came in pretty late and I couldn't practice over the weekend. I actually don't like this track, so and I've always had bad luck in it. But yeah, I do better in races, and also it was helped by the fact that King Rapture and Max were not present in the race. But I enjoyed watching P2 fights behind me because I saw the gents were close. Kind of missed that, but yeah, it's nice to win for once.
Yeah, man. Yeah, pretty much peerless there towards the end. Um, did you when you got that first 3 second time penalty? Um, did where exactly did you get to that penalty? And of course, by then the gap was big enough, so you weren't feeling too worried that Mfundo would have been able to catch up.
Yeah, when you're taking it slightly, you miss your lines and you make mistakes. So I was just making mistake in the same spots. It's the chicane up the hill at the start of sector 3. So I was just making mistakes there and going over the chicane. Then the last 3 seconds, I was trying to push for a fastest lap in the last lap. I didn't work out. I got a penalty there as well. So yeah, but at least I maintained the fastest lap for the race as well.
Man, what a performance that was. I'd also like to get a sense, of course, that this, I think, is your first race win of the season. You've had one second place finish. If you look ahead to the next race, how are you feeling as far as that particular track and your comfort levels?
I think very comfortable because of the pace that I'm showing on track.
Man, what a
I did have some
performance
scares
that.
with Mashi and Fundo, but as soon as I settled into my to the race, the pace was good. So I think it's just a matter of sticking close to King Rapture and Max in the coming races.
Man, and that may yet be the case. We're joined also in the commentary box by none other than the P2 finishing Mfundo, who kept it clean, kept it without incident, kept his nose clean. There was so much drama in the compromise lobby, in this lobby at the start of the race. How was quali number one? You were looking very good, Mfundo. And take us through your race and your preparation as well.
Yeah, yeah, quali was good. I could have gone faster than that because during practice, when I was practicing during the week with Tindo, I went a bit faster. So I was like, you know what, let me just bank this lap and chill because I wanted to go on an aggressive strategy in the race. It was working until we had to restart. And then the medium strategy again, when we restarted, I was planning to be aggressive towards the end. So I was pushing those medium as long as I could to get on softs. But I accidentally selected hards and yeah, it was that. So I had to make it work. But
Okay.
yeah. But overall, a good track. It's one of my weaker tracks, especially by that chicane after that uphill. I just get very nervous around there and I lose time. And I'm sure Kopoza was picking that up, that I'm quite slow there. I don't know. I just can't take it aggressively because, I lose control of the car. It feels like I'm crashing, with those barriers and stuff. And when I try different setups and soft suspension, it just doesn't work. But anyway, I'm happy with the results. But yeah, I think there's a lot more work to do. Just like Topoza said, keeping up with Max and Rapture, those are the guys that are fire. So yeah, there's still a lot of work to do.
Definitely. You've been on the podium before, Infundo. It is, of course, a very competitive field in Tier 2, always seems to be. What are your personal targets for this season? Apart from, of course, promotion.
Yeah. So you know what? I think I'm getting close to be ready for promotion. But I think top 5 this season is more realistic.
More realistic than automatic promotion?
Yeah. So yeah. If I could get promotion, automatic promotion, that would be great. But yeah, man, we've got Sana Ashira that I fight tooth and nail with every single race. We've got Kopoza, you know what I mean? It's just it's hot at the top, eh?
Yeah. Ah,
Yeah.
man, but what a performance you put on today, man. Was looking really, really good. Qualifying was sensational. The race was clean cut, no time penalties, and it's another podium appearance there for Mfundo. Yeah, just your thoughts on the next track that's coming up and your comfort levels around there?
What's the next track again?
It is. I just closed that tab. I'm just going to open it once.
Paul Ricard.
Oh, it is France. Yes, it is
Oh,
France.
yes. Yeah. So I think it's my stronger tracks. I just don't know how fast the other guys are, but I'm pretty comfortable with Paul Ricard, and I enjoy it. So yeah, I'm quite positive. Yeah.
We
All
also
right.
confirmed.
Both of you feeling very comfortable. Looking forward to it. I do hope, of course, that we'll have a decent complement of competitors for all of you to go toe to toe with. But still, today was beautiful stuff by both of you. Congratulations. We will be seeing you in France. Marshy seemingly could not join us in the commentary box. So thank you very much, gentlemen. We will see you in France.
Thank you,
Thanks.
again, Fundo.
All
Now,
right. And
well done to you.
thank
Thanks.
everyone who also tuned in earlier on. That concludes our broadcast.